So we have looked at a number of different voting systems, the majority voting system, the positional voting systems, including the border count and the plurality voting. And what we have found that each of the voting systems have some sorts of problems or pathologies associated with them, right? So this leads to a more general question that can we actually ever find a voting system that provides a group ranking for three or more alternatives and that avoids all of the problems that we have been discussing so far, right? So before we give an answer to this question, it might be worthwhile to take a step back and make this statement a bit more precise, right? So for example, what do we mean by voting system? What do we mean by pathologies? And all these things, we want to make it a bit more clear, right? So voting systems, this is something that we have already discussed before, but the idea is that you have a fixed number of voters. Let's say there are K voters in your society. And voting system would basically be taking into account all of these individual preferences and then coming up with a ranking over the different options or alternatives that are available for the entire group, right? That is the objective of a voting system. It is basically a function. What are the things that you want the voting system to actually have? So there are some properties that I think we can all agree that we would prefer, right? So one of them is pretty straightforward to state. The other one is a bit more complicated, but you will see that, the problem actually comes from that second assumption. So the first one that we would actually want the voting system to satisfy is to have this Pareto principle or unanimity. What does this say? It says that basically, if everyone prefers X to Y individually, then the group ranking over the different alternatives should also have X over Y, right? So we have written this a bit more formally here, but this is basically the same thing, right? So for each individual I, for an alternative X and Y, if you have that X is preferred by I over Y, right? Then the group ranking, which is this one without the I, that should also have X being ranked more than Y, right? That is an assumption. And this kind of makes sense, right? If all of us agree that some option is better than the other, then as a group, we also must agree that, that option is better than the other one, right? The second assumption is what is known as independence of irrelevant alternatives, right? So this is a bit more complicated, but we'll see that a lot of problems actually arise because of violation of this, right? So this says that for each pair of alternatives, the ordering of X and Y in the group ranking should only depend on how each individuals rank X and Y relative to each other, right? So to kind of like understand the motivation for this, recall the example that we discussed with regards to Maradona, Messi, and Pele, right? So we had seen that, each of the individuals, when they were ranking Pele and Maradona, and when they were ranking Pele and Maradona when Messi came in, nobody changed their relative ranking of Pele and Maradona, right? But we saw that the introduction of Messi led to actually the group ranking of Pele and Maradona switching, right? So we do not want such a feature, right? And this assumption basically says that voting system should not have such a feature, right? So if you now kind of like again reread, the idea is that suppose we have a set of individual rankings that provides a group ranking in which X is preferred over Y. So for example, in which you had Pele being preferred over Maradona. Now, if you bring along some third alternative, which is Messi, and you change Messi's position in the individual rankings, while you leave the relative ordering of Pele and Maradona the same in terms of individual rankings, then at the end of the day, the voting system should still produce that the ranking between Pele and Maradona should not change because individually nobody has changed their relative ranking of Pele and Maradona, right? So this is basically what it is saying. I encourage you to kind of pause the video for a moment and then think a bit more about it and realize why this was violated in the quota voting. So this failure of this action is actually kind of like responsible for most of the issues that has been happening with the voting systems discussed so far, right? So I already discussed why this is the case for the board account example, where it was actually the changes in the ranking of Messi that was enough to change the outcome between Maradona and Pele. But if you think about it, this also actually showed up in the strategic agenda setting example that we discussed in the context of the say paradox of majority voting, right? So there too, the idea was that we used a third alternative to basically kind of like get rid of the alternative that was the most scary for the one that I liked. And then basically we won because the most dangerous alternative to the preferred alternative was removed as a result of that, right? So again, it was the use of the third kind of like alternative that helped to change the rankings, the group rankings between the two that was there, right? So One question is that, okay, so suppose that we do not like this we would like our voting system to have these two properties, unanimity and IIA. Can we actually come up with a voting system that actually gives you that? Now, if you are only choosing between two alternatives and options, then the majority rule satisfies both, right? So majority rule would, for example, say that if everybody prefers option one over option two, then if you go by majority rule, clearly option one would be selected over option two, right? And since we are only talking about two alternatives, there is no question of a third alternative coming in and doing anything. So IIA is basically trivially satisfied, right? Now, the problem happens with like if you have three or more alternatives. So now, is there a voting system that actually satisfies both? The answer is yes. This is actually a new voting system which we have not discussed so far, which is called dictatorship. So what is the dictatorship voting system? The idea is that here, beforehand, you decide that you are going to pick one of the individuals, okay? And then whatever this individual wants in terms of ranking over different alternatives, you're going to say that the group ranking is going to be just that ranking, right? So why is it a dictatorship? Because it is completely determined by that individual who you have selected as the individual whose ranking is going to be selected, right? So in principle, you can have like different types of voting systems, right? Corresponding to each of the individuals who you are selecting as dictator, right? And this is a system where actually unanimity and IIA is going to be satisfied. Why? Because suppose everyone prefers X over Y, then clearly the dictator is one of those everyone. So the dictator prefers X over Y, and hence the group ranking would also have X preferred over Y. And the group ranking of X and Y only depends on how the dictator is ranking X and Y, right? So as long as the dictator's ranking of X and Y remains the same, any changes in the ranking of Z with respect to X and Y is not going to make any difference because the dictator continues to have the same ranking of X and Y, and the group ranking is exactly the dictator's ranking, right? So in this case, again, you have that this is a system, dictatorship is a system which satisfies IIA. Now, the interesting thing is that this is the only system, this is the only voting system that satisfies unanimity and IIA when you have got at least three alternatives, right? So this is the theorem that was kind of like first proved by Kenneth Arrow, who said that if there are at least three alternatives, okay, then any voting system that satisfies both unanimity and IIA must correspond to dictatorship by one individual. So we are not going into the proof of this theorem. If you are interested, then you can kind of like look up the proof in the textbook. But I just want to point out that this is one of the great proofs in game theory, right? Because if you think about it, it's very interesting about how do you go out and prove such a thing, right? Because the claim is about you can consider any voting system. None of the voting system will manage to kind of like have unanimity and IIA and not have dictatorship, right? So it's like something kind of like, you can come up with any voting system that you cannot even imagine so far. The proof says that it doesn't matter what voting system you come up with, either you're going to have one violation of one of these things, right? So by the way, the reason why it's called impossibility theorem is because there's another alternative way of writing this, right? So dictatorship is clearly not considered one of the good attributes, right? So you might think that you would ideally want non-dictatorship as one of the characteristics of a voting system as well. So we are going to say that a voting system satisfies non-dictatorship if there's no individual I for which the group ranking always coincides with I's ranking, right? So in this alternative version, then we are going to say that if there are at least three alternatives, then there is no voting system that satisfies unanimity, IIA, and non-dictatorship, right? So because of this impossibility of a voting system satisfying all these three things together, that's why it's called the impossibility theorem, right? So the main implication of this is that, like it or not, any voting system that you can think of is subject to unavoidable trade-offs, right? So there is no perfect voting system. And therefore, what we must consider when we are deciding about a voting system to consider is that what are the sorts of undesirable behavior that it will lead to? Because we know for certain there is some undesirable behavior. And then we need to think about whether that is something that we care about in our context, right? So this was actually kind of like the starting point of a whole field called social choice theory, which was a systematic study of voting behavior. And this field continues to remain very active in the studies, especially in computer science and economics.